Did you know that some of the pills trusted by millions of seniors could be silently sabotaging memory, not over decades, but in as little as a year? We've been told memory loss is a natural part of aging, but new research suggests otherwise. For many, the real culprit isn't age at all. It's sitting right inside their medicine cabinet. And here's what makes this especially alarming. These are not rare, obscure prescriptions. They're the everyday pills prescribed for sleep, heartburn, anxiety, pain, even allergies. Doctors often call them safe or routine. Pharmacies sell them without a single warning label. Yet, buried in medical journals, the evidence is clear. These medications can shrink memory centers in the brain, accelerate cognitive decline, and increase the risk of dementia dramatically. Before we dive into the list, drop a comment below. Which medications do you or your loved ones take daily? Have you ever felt brain fog or sudden forgetfulness since starting them? We read every single comment, and you might be surprised at how many people share your experience. The truth is shocking, but also empowering, because once you know the hidden risks, you can take steps to protect your brain, ask the right questions, and even reverse some of the damage. Today, we're exposing the 9 most dangerous medications linked to memory loss and dementia, ranked from the surprisingly common to the most devastating. And number 3 on this list, it's prescribed to millions for something relatively harmless, yet it can eat away at your memory every single day. Let's begin. Picture this. You're tossing and turning at night, desperate for sleep, or maybe spring allergies have your nose running, and you just want relief. So you reach for that little pink pill, diphenhydramine, often sold under the brand name Benadryl. Millions of people keep it in their nightstand, trusting it as a harmless quick fix. But what if I told you that pill could be erasing memories before you even realize what's happening? Diphenhydramine belongs to a class of medications called anticholinergics. These drugs work by blocking acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter your brain depends on to form new memories and stay alert. The catch? As we age, our brains rely on every bit of acetylcholine we have left. When you interfere with that process, the results can be devastating. In fact, a 2023 study published in the Journal of Geriatric Cognitive Health found that seniors who regularly used anticholinergic drugs had a 54% higher risk of developing dementia compared to those who didn't. The most dangerous part? Diphenhydramine is everywhere. It hides behind labels like PM, nighttime, or even allergy relief. You might think you're taking something mild and safe, but the effect inside your brain is far from mild. It's slow, silent, and cumulative, like sand slipping through an hourglass you can't flip back over. The good news is, you don't have to suffer through insomnia or allergies without help. There are safer alternatives. For allergies, non-sedating antihistamines like loratadine, commonly sold as Claritin, don't cross the blood-brain barrier and are much gentler on memory. For sleep, natural melatonin or simple behavioral changes like keeping a consistent bedtime routine can make a surprising difference. The key takeaway here, over-the-counter does not mean risk-free. And this is just the beginning, because the next medication on our list isn't hidden in a nightstand. It's prescribed for something as common as heartburn. But the way it starves your brain might shock you even more. Heartburn, indigestion, acid reflux, they sound uncomfortable, but not life-threatening. That's why so many seniors rely on medications like Prilosec, Nexium, or Protonix, drugs known as proton pump inhibitors or PPIs. Doctors often prescribe them casually, sometimes for years at a time, but what no one tells you is that the very pill soothing your stomach may also be starving your brain. Here's how it works. PPIs drastically reduce stomach acid. That might sound like a good thing, but stomach acid is essential for absorbing certain nutrients, especially vitamin B12, magnesium, and calcium. Without these nutrients, your neurons struggle to fire properly. Over time, that leads to misfiring, confusion, and memory lapses that mimic early dementia. The danger isn't hypothetical. In a massive 2016 study published in JAMA Neurology, researchers followed more than 73,000 people aged 75 and older. They found that regular PPI users had a 44% higher risk of developing dementia compared to those who didn't use them. and the damage goes even deeper. PPIs have been linked to the buildup of amyloid beta plaques in the brain, toxic proteins considered a core driver of Alzheimer's disease. Think about it. A pill you take for heartburn could be quietly laying the groundwork for cognitive decline. And the worst part is, once you start taking PPIs, many people find they can't stop. The moment they miss a dose, the heartburn comes back stronger than ever, trapping them in a cycle that feels impossible to escape. But there are safer ways out. H2 blockers, like famotidine, sold as Pepcid, can be a gentler option with less impact on the brain. Natural approaches like chewing deglycyrrhizated licorice, elevating the head of your bed, or avoiding trigger foods before sleep can help calm reflux without sabotaging your memory. So if PPIs are so risky, why do doctors keep prescribing them for years on end? The answer might disturb you, but before we get to that, let's look at the next category of drugs. They're given for something embarrassing but common: bladder problems. Yet the price you pay isn't just inconvenience, it could be your memory itself. Few things feel more frustrating than constantly needing the bathroom. For seniors, it's not just inconvenient, it can be embarrassing, even isolating. That's why bladder control medications like oxybutynin, often sold as Ditropin, are so widely prescribed. On the surface, they seem like a simple fix. But what if the very pill meant to give you control over your bladder is quietly robbing you of control over your mind? Oxybutynin belongs to the same dangerous group as Benadryl, anticholinergics. But unlike the milder versions, this one crosses the blood-brain barrier more aggressively, directly interfering with the hippocampus, the memory hub of the brain. The result? Forgetfulness, fog, and confusion that many patients assume are just normal aging. In fact, a 2019 study published in the BMJ revealed a chilling statistic. Seniors over 65 who took strong bladder medications like oxybutynin for more than a year faced a 49% higher risk of developing dementia. That's nearly 1 in 2. Even more troubling, many seniors were never warned about these risks. They were told only that the drug would stop accidents, not that it might speed up memory decline. The signs often appear slowly: misplacing items, forgetting appointments, or losing track of conversations. Families may chalk it up to age, when in reality, the medication is quietly accelerating the damage. But here's the hopeful part. Newer alternatives exist. A drug called mirabegron, brand name Myrbetriq, works differently. Instead of blocking acetylcholine, it stimulates receptors in the bladder directly, making it far less likely to harm memory. Lifestyle strategies like limiting caffeine, scheduling bathroom visits, and pelvic floor exercises can also help reduce symptoms naturally. This is the cruel irony. The medicine meant to give seniors independence can sometimes steal it away entirely. And bladder drugs are far from the only ones with this hidden trade-off. Up next is a class of medications nearly everyone over 60 has heard of, prescribed by the millions to protect the heart. But what most people don't know is that these drugs may be starving the brain at the same time. If you're over 60, chances are high you've either been prescribed a statin or know someone who has. These drugs, names like simvastatin Zocor and atorvastatin Lipitor, are among the most widely prescribed medications in the world. Their purpose seems straightforward: lower cholesterol to reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. But here's the hidden twist. Cholesterol isn't just about the heart. It's absolutely essential for the brain. The human brain is nearly 60% fat, and cholesterol is one of its most critical building blocks. It helps form the myelin sheath, the protective coating around nerve fibers that keeps signals moving quickly and efficiently. When cholesterol levels are aggressively lowered for the sake of the heart, the brain can be left undernourished, struggling to function at full capacity. Research backs this up. A 2023 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience tracked seniors over 70 who had been on statins for more than 3 years. The results were sobering. Long-term users had a 26% higher risk of mild cognitive impairment, and those on high doses reported even more pronounced memory problems. Some described suddenly forgetting familiar driving routes, names of close friends, or conversations they had just had. Memory gaps that were brushed off as getting older, but were actually tied to the drug. Here's the catch. Not all statins affect the brain equally. Drugs like pravastatin and rosuvastatin are less likely to cross the blood-brain barrier and may pose a lower risk for memory issues, but others, like simvastatin, pass through more easily and are more strongly linked to cognitive decline. If you've been on statins for years and notice fog, confusion, or sudden forgetfulness, don't ignore it. Talk to your doctor. Sometimes a lower dose or a switch to a different statin can make all the difference. And in some cases, lifestyle changes, improving diet, walking daily, managing stress, can help lower cholesterol naturally without putting memory at risk. It's a painful irony. A drug meant to protect your life may also quietly diminish the very quality of it, and if statins worry you, the next class of drugs should terrify you even more. They're prescribed for sleep, anxiety, and nerves, but their long-term effect can leave the brain dependent, dulled, and vulnerable. For countless seniors, the struggle with anxiety or sleepless nights feels unbearable. That's why drugs like lorazepam, Ativan, diazepam, Valium, and alprazolam, Xanax, are so commonly prescribed. At first, they feel like a lifeline, calming racing thoughts, easing panic, and finally delivering the deep rest you've been craving. But behind that relief lies a devastating cost. Benzodiazepines work by enhancing the effects of GABA, the brain's calming chemical. In the short term, this slows overstimulation. But over time, it does something much more sinister. It sedates the brain's ability to learn, adapt, and remember. Neural pathways grow sluggish. Information that once stuck easily slips away, leaving behind confusion and fog. The numbers are chilling. A 2022 study published in the BMJ followed more than 8,000 seniors over 6 years. It found that those who had taken benzodiazepines for longer than 3 months had a 51% increased risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. The risk was even higher for long-acting drugs like diazepam, which accumulate in fatty tissues, including the brain itself. And here's the cruel trap. The very drugs causing memory problems also make it harder to stop taking them. Seniors often describe feeling like they're not themselves, dull, disconnected, emotionally flat. Yet when they try to quit, withdrawal hits hard, anxiety rebounds stronger, sleep becomes impossible, and agitation skyrockets. It creates a vicious cycle where the drug feels essential even though it's the source of the decline. Breaking free is possible, but it must be done carefully. Never stop a benzodiazepine suddenly. Tapering slowly under medical supervision is critical to avoid dangerous withdrawal symptoms. Safer alternatives do exist. Medications like buspirone can calm anxiety without the same cognitive harm, and non-drug approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for anxiety and insomnia have been proven highly effective. What makes this especially heartbreaking is how many seniors are left believing their fading memory is simply old age, when in reality, it's chemical sedation. But benzodiazepines aren't the only trap hiding in plain sight. Up next is a drug originally designed as an antidepressant, but often prescribed for pain and sleep, and it might be one of the most powerful memory disruptors still in circulation today. Back in the 1960s, a drug called amitriptyline, often sold under the brand name Elavil, was introduced as an antidepressant. Decades later, it's still being prescribed, not just for depression, but also for nerve pain, migraines, and even insomnia. On paper, it looks like a multitasking wonder, but underneath, amitriptyline carries one of the heaviest cognitive burdens of any medication still in use today. The reason is simple. Amitriptyline is a potent anticholinergic. That means it doesn't just reduce acetylcholine activity, it shuts it down so aggressively that long-term cognitive decline isn't just possible, it's expected. Acetylcholine is the brain's lifeline for memory and learning. When it's consistently blocked, neurons stop communicating effectively and memory centers begin to weaken. The data paints a stark picture. A landmark 2015 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine tracked over 3,400 adults aged 65 and older for a decade. The findings, those with higher cumulative doses of strong anticholinergics, like amitriptyline, had a 54% greater chance of developing dementia, That's more than half again the normal risk. Not a slight bump, but a dramatic leap. What's worse is how subtle the decline begins. Patients often start taking amitriptyline for sleep or nerve pain. Slowly they notice word-finding difficulties, foggy focus, or short-term memory slips. These signs creep in so gradually that they're mistaken for natural aging, while the medication quietly accelerates the process. The good news is that safer alternatives exist. For nerve pain, options like duloxetine, Cymbalta, or gabapentin can provide relief without such a heavy anticholinergic load. For sleep, melatonin or low-dose doxepin, which has far milder effects on acetylcholine, can be safer. And for mood support, newer antidepressants like sertraline or escitalopram are much better tolerated by aging brains. Amitriptyline is a perfect example of how an outdated drug can linger in circulation long after its dangers are known. But the next medication on our list is even more shocking. It's marketed as a modern antidepressant, part of the safe new generation of SSRIs. Yet one of them in particular has a hidden property that makes it uniquely destructive to memory. When selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors or SSRIs were introduced, they were hailed as a safer alternative to older antidepressants. Drugs like sertraline, Zoloft, and escitalopram, Lexapro quickly became household names, offering mood stability with fewer side effects. But hidden among this newer class is one outlier: paroxetine, sold under the brand name Paxil. Unlike its siblings, paroxetine comes with a dangerous secret. It has strong anticholinergic properties, making it uniquely risky for memory. On the surface, paroxetine looks like any other SSRI. It balances serotonin to improve mood, calm anxiety, and reduce irritability. But deep in the brain, it also interferes with acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter critical for memory, focus, and learning. This one detail changes everything. A 2021 review published in Frontiers in Psychiatry compared elderly patients on different antidepressants. The findings were striking. Those taking paroxetine showed measurable declines in short-term memory, verbal recall, and attention span within just the first year. Even more troubling, seniors on paroxetine were 30% more likely to develop early cognitive impairment compared to those on other SSRIs. The irony is painful. A drug prescribed to help stabilize mood and sharpen focus ends up eroding the very clarity it's supposed to restore. Families often notice personality changes, a loved one becoming forgetful, less sharp, more withdrawn, and assume it's just aging. In reality, the culprit could be a prescription bottle labeled Paxil. Doctors and pharmacists know this risk, which is why the American Geriatric Society has officially placed paroxetine on its Beers criteria list, a warning list of medications considered inappropriate for older adults. Yet it's still prescribed, sometimes simply out of habit or because it's what a doctor has always used. The fix here is clear. Avoid paroxetine if you're over 60. Safer alternatives like sertraline, escitalopram, or citalopram can support mood without dragging down cognition. Supplements like B vitamins, especially B12 and B6, may also help stabilize mood naturally while protecting memory. But paroxetine isn't the only shocker. The next category of drugs on this list is perhaps the most disturbing of all. Originally designed for severe psychiatric illness, they're now quietly given to seniors for sleep or agitation, and the results can leave loved ones unrecognizable. When most people hear the word antipsychotics, they think of conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Medications such as quetiapine, Seroquel, risperidone, Risperdal, and olanzapine, Zyprexa, were originally designed to treat severe psychiatric illnesses. But here's the unsettling truth. Today, these drugs are often prescribed off-label to seniors for something much simpler: trouble sleeping, restlessness, or agitation. And the consequences can be devastating. Antipsychotics work by suppressing dopamine, a neurotransmitter not only tied to mood, but also critical for memory, motivation, and decision-making. When dopamine activity is blunted, the brain becomes sluggish, unresponsive, and disconnected. Families often describe loved ones on these medications as zombified, present physically, but emotionally and mentally absent. The risks aren't small. A 2022 study published in The Lancet Healthy Longevity tracked more than 25,000 older adults. The findings were shocking. Seniors prescribed antipsychotics for behavioral symptoms were 71% more likely to experience rapid cognitive decline within just 1 year, even if they had no prior dementia diagnosis. These drugs also raise the risk of stroke, severe sedation, falls, hospitalization, and even sudden death. The tragedy is that many seniors and families never even know what's happening. Doctors may present these medications as a quick solution for sleep or agitation without explaining their true purpose or the heavy toll they take on the brain. What seems like normal decline is often the chemical side effect of a drug that should never have been prescribed in the first place. There are safer, non-drug strategies for managing behavioral changes in seniors. Establishing consistent routines, reducing noise and overstimulation, improving lighting, and addressing pain or discomfort can often calm agitation naturally. And when medication is absolutely necessary, using the lowest possible dose for the shortest duration is far safer than long-term use. Antipsychotics represent a heartbreaking example of convenience winning over caution. But the most dangerous threat isn't a single drug at all. It's something even more insidious: the hidden danger of taking multiple memory-damaging medications at the same time. And that brings us to the #1 spot on this list. By now, you've seen how single medications can chip away at memory. But what if the most dangerous threat isn't one pill, but the combination of many? This silent danger is called anticholinergic polypharmacy, the cumulative effect of taking multiple drugs that all interfere with acetylcholine. And for seniors, it's a ticking time bomb hidden in plain sight. Imagine this scenario. You take diphenhydramine Benadryl at night for sleep, oxybutynin during the day for bladder issues, and amitriptyline for nerve pain. Separately, each one has mild memory risks, but together, they stack like weights pressing down on the brain, amplifying each other until the burden becomes overwhelming. The numbers are staggering. A 2022 analysis in Age and Aging followed over 280,000 older adults and found that those with the highest cumulative anticholinergic burden had a 120% higher risk of developing dementia within 10 years. That's more than double the risk, not because of one bad drug, but because of a cocktail effect most patients never even realize they're exposed to. The mechanism is brutal. By blocking acetylcholine from multiple angles, the brain doesn't just slow down, it begins to atrophy. Neurons weaken from underuse, synapses shrink, and the brain slips into a hypoactive state eerily similar to Alzheimer's disease. Families see it happening but rarely connect the dots, assuming it's just the way aging goes. Here's the hopeful part. Unlike natural aging, drug-induced memory loss can often be reversed. When the burden is lifted by tapering off unnecessary medications, switching to safer alternatives, or carefully simplifying prescriptions, seniors often regain clarity, focus, and energy within weeks or months. The brain is resilient if given the chance. That's why one of the most powerful steps you can take isn't adding another supplement or pill, but asking for a comprehensive medication review. Pharmacists and doctors can calculate your anticholinergic load and identify safer pathways forward. The solution isn't complicated. It's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward protecting your mind. This hidden cocktail effect deserves the top spot on our list, because while one pill may be risky, the silent stacking of many is what turns everyday medicine into a devastating force against memory. But now that you know, you have the power to change it. For years we've been told that memory loss and dementia are simply the price of getting older. But as you've just seen, much of the decline blamed on age is actually tied to medications, some of the most common, everyday prescriptions taken by seniors worldwide. From sleep aids and bladder pills to antidepressants, antipsychotics, and the hidden cocktail effect of polypharmacy, the danger isn't always obvious, but the evidence is undeniable. The hopeful truth is this: drug-induced memory loss is often reversible. By reviewing your medications, reducing anticholinergic burden, and switching to safer alternatives, it's possible to regain clarity, focus, and even parts of yourself that felt lost. The brain is far more resilient than most people realize, but only if you give it the chance to heal. So here's my question for you. Which of these medications have you or your loved ones taken? Have you noticed changes in memory, mood, or personality since starting them? And most importantly, will you take the step of asking your doctor or pharmacist for a full medication review this week? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be the one that encourages someone else to take action. If this video helped open your eyes, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We share new insights every week, carefully researched and designed to protect your health and independence as you age. Don't let silence or misinformation steal your future. Together, we can expose the truth and make smarter choices for our minds and bodies.